I think that's the big message coming out of this year's report. The pandemic has had a massive impact and essentially rolled back a lot of the progress that was made in the past. So, 100 years to global gender parity was already not good enough. And now 136 years globally, and as you point out, more than 200 years on some of the indicators, particularly the economic ones. And the reason for that is many of the sectors that have been impacted by COVID, by the lockdowns, they actually happen to be very large employers of women. So whether that's travel and tourism that's shut down globally, or consumer and retail sector that has been impacted in so many countries, these are large employers of women. And then of course, there are these structural changes, which is essentially the acceleration of automation and digitization, and that's creating additional challenges as well.
There was one bright spot, though. I mean, we talk a lot about Western Europe and Iceland and in terms of how they've moved so quickly to gender parity or on that route. But here in the Middle East, specifically in the UAE, Abu Dhabi and Dubai, we've seen massive progress in the last few years, no?
Yeah, the UAE is one of the countries that improved the most between our 2019 report and the 2021 report. And that is definitely a hopeful sign of progress. And I think the fundamentals are there, right? So across a lot of the Middle East, there's been massive investment in girls' education, in women's education. Women make up the majority of those that are going to university. And what you're now starting to see is the impact of that in the labor force. And there has been a lot of effort on the economic participation and starting to be some progress on political participation. And that's what we're seeing with the UAE.
Who needs to take the lead here? Is it government or perhaps elsewhere?
The government does have a critical role to play. One of the other reasons the pandemic has been so damaging on the progress previously made on economic participation of women is care work, right? So care responsibilities are still primarily the domain of women. And we've seen a lot of rollback of traditional behaviors inside the home. And that has then meant a sort of a double shift for women. So governments have to provide care infrastructure and a broader care economy that also happens to be a strong generator of jobs in the future. So it would be the right kind of investment for governments to make today. But that's not to say that employers don't have a role to play. We found through the additional work that we did, particularly looking at the United States in collaboration with LinkedIn, that the hiring rates in those industries that are starting to bounce back, the hiring rates for women are lower than those of men. So combine that with higher job losses, relatively speaking, for women, and you've basically got kind of the perfect storm. And if businesses want to have the kind of creativity and innovation that will get them out of the crisis, they need diversity. And so they need to think of this as a business investment as well.